Hi, welcome to your yoga mat, or your yoga blanket, or your yoga beach towel. Welcome to this time for you to practice yoga. My name is Felicia Graham Commissar, and I am delighted that you have chosen to download this, to click onto this, to do this by yourself or with friends. I've taken a few classes these past COVID-19 weeks through Zoom, through these pre-recorded classes, and it's been so good. It's been so good to imagine practicing with teachers that I love, with the rest of you in the room. So my hope is that during this time you feel connected to others at this time when we are physically distancing from one another. I'd like to invite you to come to sit, and I'd like to share with you a chant that we call the invocation on togetherness. The words mean, may we be protected together, may we be nourished together. May our studies be fruitful and vigorous. May the light of understanding spread between us. May we never hate one another. Om, peace, peace, peace. So come to a comfortable seat. Take this time to gather your props and arrive here and now. So coming to settle in a comfortable seat. Maybe on the edge of a blanket or a block or some pillows, something that lifts your hips higher than your knees. Your legs can be long in front of you. You can sit on your shins. Maybe take a moment to rock side to side. Feel the sitting bones planted where you are. Ankles can be under the knees, sweet, easy Sukhasana pose. Ankles can be lined up or stacked in Siddhasana. What does your body like? What feels good and certain right here? Not much is the answer these days. I've been inspired to pull out one of my favorite books from Pema Chodron, Comfortable with Uncertainty. Maybe it's a prayer that I have for myself and for all of us right now. Allow your eyes to close, your hands to rest on your thighs. Grow long and curvy in the spine. And draw a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, sigh. And be patient. with a long, slow inhale and a long, slow sigh. Palms down, feeling your legs. Palms up, ready to release or receive. Elbows dangling from the shoulders. If you feel safe, gently close the eyes. Otherwise, keep them gently open. How do you come to here and now? That's a lot of what I was reading in Pema's book this week. Being comfortable with uncertainty. Being comfortable when you're not sure. Being comfortable with this moment. So I invite you today to feel your feelings, to think your thoughts, to pay attention to the sensations in the body. And welcome. Welcome the uncomfortableness. Welcome the reality of now. Yoga isn't an antidote, a magic pill. Yoga is a practice that connects you to your wisdom and your strength. It connects you with your knowledge that you have made it through all the days that we have been through. And you will be here through all the days to come. So let's again draw a deep breath in through the nose. And exhale, sigh. I like to chant the sound of Om before I begin practice, and I invite you to chant the sound of Om with me. Om is a sound that we make that vibrates beyond us. It recognizes the past, the present, and the future, and a timeless quality of existence. If it's meaningful to you, gather your hands together in prayer in front of your heart. Maybe you rest one hand on top of the other on the chest. Maybe you bring hands to your belly or leave them on your thighs, feeling how you feel as you breathe as I chant, or as you hum as I chant, or as you chant as I chant, because everything is your choice. Let's inhale together. Relax your left hand down to your left thigh. Tuck your first finger into your thumb. This is called a Jnana Mudra, a wisdom seal. Bring your right palm up in front of your face. Tuck your first two fingers down so your ring finger can rest to the base of your left nostril and the thumb to the base of your right. If it's uncomfortable to have the fingertips like this, you could rest them in between the eyebrows. Gaze gently forward and then maybe invite the eyes to close. Let the shoulders soften down. Let the back of the neck be long. If you don't want to hold the arm up today for any reason whatsoever, reach for a couple blankets or books, or if you have them at home, some yoga blocks, and rest the elbow there. Let's inhale together through both nostrils, and exhale together through both nostrils. And close the right nostril with your thumb and inhale left for 3, 2, 1. Close left, exhale right, 3, 2, 1. Inhale right, 3, 2, 1. Close right, exhale left. That's one round of Nadi Shodhana. Inhale left, 2, 1. Close left, exhale right, 3, 2, 1. Inhale right, 3, 2, 1. Close right, exhale left. A slower round. Continue this horseshoe pattern breath as you inhale left, letting your inhales and exhales balance to the best of your ability. Letting the jaw stay soft, the tongue relaxed in the bottom of the mouth. Nadi Shodhana invites a balance, energy pathway clearing breath. If it's inviting anxiety, competition, a lot of gritting of the teeth, then relax the right hand down. Today's not the right day for the practice. Not everything can be as we plan. What can you let go of for a moment? A need for a number, a specific result of your practice. Can you float in not knowing what the next inhale will feel like or what the next exhale will sound like? When you finish your next round of Nadi Shodhana, release your right hand down. That'll be when you exhale through your left nostril. The right palm can be up or down, Jnana Mudra, or open and empty of any symbol, gesture, or mudra. And gently blink your eyes open. Maybe shrug your shoulders up, back, and down. And gather your knees up, lengthen your legs, maybe circle, wiggle the toes, give the knees a rub. And then set yourself up to practice a heart bench now. So moving anything underneath you out of the way. Finding 2 yoga blocks if you're fortunate to have them. One on the tall height, one on the low height. The back of the head will rest here. The back of the heart will rest here. The blocks may touch. They may be apart, but this bottom edge no lower than your lowest rib, so not in the small part of the back. Maybe you don't have yoga blocks with you today. You probably have a couple blankets or beach towels. You could take 2 of them, a thickness of it's probably about 3 inches or so, and roll them up into a Tootsie Roll. It's nice to have the head higher than the heart here, so you could take another blanket or a throw pillow, whatever's easiest for you, whatever you like, and have that to kind of lift the back of the head higher. So either way, whether you're coming down onto blocks or onto the roll, I like to come down with my knees bent and then rest down. The head higher than the heart allows the chin to gently soften down. Let the arms feel the ground, palms up or palms down. Palms close to the body or arms close to the body or maybe a little away. You can let the knees drop out to the side with the soles of the feet near each other. You can lengthen the legs and have them long. You could also leave the feet on the mat and let the knees gently knock in. Feeling the chest lift. Feel what's behind you, supporting you, and soften down. Let the eyes close here. Maybe some space between the top teeth and the bottom teeth. Throughout the class today, I'll be demonstrating the shape with different options. And then I'll come up to face the camera and to share some readings from both Pema Chodron and perhaps another author if we get to it. Sometimes it's cozy to cover up with a blanket across the chest or the legs in this shape we call heart bench. It could be nice to have a soft scarf with you during practice to gently place over the body that can invite a sense of safety and comfort. When I think about being comfortable with uncertainty, I think about what practices connect me to my own sense of ability and choice, strength and compassion. Take a long, slow breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and sigh. This book, Comfortable with Uncertainty, is made up of 108 slogans. They are different practices and teachings to connect you with your kindness, with your wisdom. This chapter is called Be Where You Are. You can cultivate the 4 limitless qualities of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity by learning to relax where you are. Emma says there's no problem with being where you are right now. Even if you feel loving kindness and compassion for only one sentient being, that's a good place to start. Simply acknowledging, respecting, appreciating that warmth is a way to encourage its growth. We can be where we are and at the same time leave wide open the possibility of being able to expand far beyond where we are now in the course of our lifetime. Expansion never happens through greediness or pushing or striving. It happens through some combination of learning to relax where you already are, and at the same time keeping the possibility open that your capacity, my capacity, the capacity of all beings is limitless. As we continue to relax where we are, our opening expands. And this is the potential of a human being. This is the gift of a human birth. When we say, may I have happiness, or may I be free of suffering, or may any individual have happiness and be free of suffering, we are saying that's the potential of a human being to expand our capacity for opening and caring limitlessly. It starts out with feeling love or compassion for one being. It can expand to include more and more beings until it reaches the full human capacity for connecting with love and compassion, which is limitless, free-flowing warmth, dynamic, alive, connected energy with no reference point. This is our human potential, to connect with the true state of affairs. And it begins with being where we are. And feel what's underneath your head. And let your jaw know that it can soften. Feel the opening across the chest and the armpits, maybe across the legs and the groins if the knees are off to the side. Yin Yoga has this wonderful capacity to compress one side of the body as it opens another. Oftentimes those feelings of opening are welcomed and then become difficult. Invite yourself to trust your breath, to trust your experience of breathing in and breathing out, and to notice with kindness, with an open heart, with as few expectations as possible. Notice when it's too much. You can add a blanket or a block. You can draw the limbs closer in or further apart. Whatever sets you at ease, whatever sets the stage for you to relax with what is compressing on one side and opening across the other. And just a few more breaths in this heart bench. And breathing in and breathing out. And turn your palms down if they're up, and draw your arms closer into your side body. Slowly bring the soles of the feet to the ground so the knees point up to your ceiling. And draw your elbows back, press down, peek at your knees, and you can roll over to the side and come up to sit, or you can continue to press into the elbows and the hands and lift up. walk the feet forward and gently bring the belly towards the thighs, the shoulders towards the knees, and finally the chin towards the chest. Letting the shoulders round down. Maybe that happens best with the elbows bent and arms on the legs, arms on the shins, or arms dangling. And press into the hands, roll your low back behind you, then your middle back behind you, then your shoulders, and finally lift your head. Maybe a few shrugs of the shoulders, maybe a little side to side of the head. And then turn to one side and bring anything that was behind you, whether it's blocks or blankets, bring them away, off to the side of the mat. And come to sit with your legs long. And leave your right leg long for now. Bend your left leg and open that knee out to the side. Instead of having that left foot touch the right leg, maybe have it open a little more. The invitation is for this left leg to relax. It may be not relaxing today. You could fold up a blanket or a block or a cookbook and put it underneath the knee. If bending the knee out this way, we say this is external rotation. If that's not comfortable, but the foot by the heel, internal rotation of this thigh bone is more comfortable, then choose that. It's mostly about this left leg relaxing. So you can turn, relax this right leg, and then gently round down over it. Sometimes the low back is tight or the leg is tight. You could ball up anything underneath here, a dish towel, a sock. You could open up a blanket or a beach towel and sit on the edge. When we sit on the edge, it can have that quality of inviting the hip points to tilt down. And when the hip points tilt down, you may get a different kind of opening across the back of that right leg. Bring anything you like in to either rest the arms and the head or to rest the head right on top of it. Some people like to let the head dangle. There can be a quality that sometimes when our arms or our hands touch the ground, we say, oh, I don't need blocks. True, you don't need them in that case or that scenario, but what would happen if the arms were on blocks? If the hands were even off the ground an extra few inches? Would it allow the shoulders to soften down? Would it invite more opening across the low back or even along this long right leg? Let's all inhale together here and exhale together here in this half butterfly pose. The great thing about props is that as you spend time in this shape, you may find yourself leaning back away from them, in which case you could add something, build them up, or you might find a lot of pressure on the prop and choose to turn it down a level or move it forward. Part of relaxing into the now is listening to your breath, feeling the sensations, and finding that right amount of stretch and opening. One where you are breathing, one where you are noticing, one where you are relaxed enough to be practicing instead of enduring. Emma says that part of the practice is to recognize suffering. Disappointment, embarrassment, and all the places where we cannot feel good are a sort of death. We've just lost our ground completely. We're unable to hold it together and feel like we're on top of things. Rather than recognizing that it takes death for there to be birth, we fight against the fear of death. Reaching our limit is not some kind of punishment. Reaching our limit is not some kind of punishment. It's actually a sign of health that when we meet the place we are about to die, we feel fear and trembling. Usually we don't take it as a message that it's time to stop struggling and look directly at what's threatening us. Things like disappointment and anxiety are messages telling us that we're about to go into unknown territory. When we get what we don't want, and when we don't get what we do want, when we're ill, when we're getting old, when we're dying, when we see any of these things in our lives, we can recognize suffering as suffering. And then we can be curious. We can notice and be mindful of our reactions. Our suffering is so grounded in our fear of impermanence. Our pain is so rooted in our lopsided view of reality. Whoever got the idea that we could have pleasure without pain? It's promoted rather wildly in this world, and we buy it. But pain and pleasure go together. They are inseparable. They can be celebrated. They are ordinary. And birth is painful and delightful. Death is painful and delightful. Everything that ends is also the beginning of something else. Pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward. A few more breaths where you are in this shape. And place your hands on the floor or on your props. Press down to roll yourself low back, behind you, middle back, upper back. Let the head arrive last. Release your left leg long. Close your eyes. Feel what you feel from the right side to the left side, from far away to close in. And then blink your eyes open if they're closed. Bend the right knee up. Release that out to the side. Again, the option to place that on a blanket or a block or a book. And perhaps you choose to bring the foot beside you and have the knee point forward. It's amazing how it feels different from side to side. That's part of the comfortable with uncertainty, I think. We often expect the first experience and the next to be similar. We expect the right side and the left side to be the same, to master something, to be professional at something. So be here and now. Sit up on a blanket, put something underneath the back of this left knee, move things out of the way or closer in so you feel evenness through the right side and the left side. And then as you're ready, you'll relax the chin in, round forward and down. Maybe wiggle this left foot side to side, so relaxing any flexing that might happen. When we come into a shape, the muscles clench, they shorten, they tighten, they hug the bones to move them. So the first few breaths in each shape is that relaxing of the gathering in, is the lengthening of the muscles. And then the shape begins to find the pull on one side and the compress on the other. When things feel uncertain, it can sometimes be helpful to sing about it, to dance about it, to write about it, to use words or images. And what allows you to soften into the experience, to invite yourself into this moment of being here and being now, with this reality, not the one you chose or you wanted. If you feel safe, gently close the eyes. Invite yourself to be where you are. invite ourselves to be where we are, to come back to this moment, we find that we are practicing being here and now. Because so often we are in the past winning an argument or planning for the future. Sometimes we notice that our mind has wandered, or we have drifted into a behavior or a habit that we don't approve of. Those are brilliant moments. One of Pema's slogans is that if you can practice even when distracted, you are well trained. So what if every time you came back to being here and now? What if every time you softened into being uncertain, you gave yourself some kind of high five? When the bottom is falling out, we might suddenly recall the slogan, if you can practice even when distracted, you are well trained. And again, practice means not continuing to strengthen habitual patterns that keep us trapped, doing anything we can to shake up and ventilate self-justification and blame. We do our best to stay with the strong energy without acting out or repressing. And in doing so, our habits become more porous. Our patterns, our samskaras, are, of course, well established, seductive, comforting. Just wishing for them to be ventilated isn't enough. Mindfulness and awareness are a key. Do we see the stories that we're telling ourselves and question their validity? When we're distracted by a strong emotion, do we remember that it's part of our path? It's part of being human. Can we feel the emotion and breathe it into our hearts for ourselves and everyone else? If we can remember to experiment like this, even occasionally, we are training as a warrior. And when we can't practice, when we're distracted, but know that we can't, we are still training well. Never underestimate the power of compassionately recognizing what's going on. Relax your shoulders. Soften the space in between your toes. Never underestimate the power of compassionately recognizing what's going on. Maybe you've been saying that a lot lately. Maybe you've been noticing what's going on in your reaction to it. Homeschooling 3 children who want to be anywhere but there. Their honesty is so vivid. And they help model really wise behavior. They very much recognize what's going on and are very comfortable verbalizing their displeasure. While I don't recommend a temper tantrum, I do recommend that you let yourself feel where you are and how you are. That you appreciate the joy of a beautiful day. That you turn on your favorite music and dance. And that you cry or punch a pillow. And that you feel your feelings. And just a couple more breaths on this side. Notice any props that you're using. Recognize the contact you're making with them. And see if you can soften down with these last few exhales here. Your elbows soft, move your hands back to press into something that's not you, the floor or blocks. Let your head dangle, jaw soft, and press into the palms to roll gently back and up. Release the right knee up, and then lengthen that leg forward. And close the eyes and feel what you feel for a moment. And if you like to, make some small movements to move the joints. Maybe you think, I just move the knees and the ankles, that was where the shape was, but what happens if you roll the shoulders, the wrists, the elbows? Come up to your hands and knees, and then lay yourself down onto your belly. We're going to move into a Sphinx pose, which is a gentle back bend. For some of my friends who don't practice back bends, this can be a nice opportunity to kind of build yourself a platform for an extended time in child's pose. You might put some books or blocks here. If you have a bolster at home, you could use a bolster and some blankets. If the knees don't like being bent in this shape, you could place a blanket or, again, even washcloths behind the ankles and roll forward and down this way. Elbows soft. Depending on how high your props are, you could even have something under the hands to relax the shoulders. So rounding the back, opening the hips could be a really sweet pose. Sphinx pose is coming all the way down onto your belly with your legs long behind you. With the elbows bent underneath the shoulders, it's kind of like mimicking that monument in Egypt, you know? Having the elbows underneath the shoulders, and then maybe a little bit forward. If the elbows are really wide, the chest seems to collapse here, so maybe having the elbows at kind of a 90-degree could give you a gentle lifting up in the chest so the shoulders can relax. When you rock side to side, relax the muscles across your bottom or the back of your thighs. Definitely a little relaxing across the calves and the ankles. The feet could be close together, hip width distance apart as wide as your mat. This is about your low back. What allows the hips to sink forward, the thighs to roll out or in, and the curve in the low back to feel. I love to think about how the front of the spine in the low back is expanding open as these vertebrae in the back are compressing. So often our awareness is only where we are displeased, where we think something is wrong, where there's something we don't like. You can have a block underneath the head or the chin. If you'd like more sensation in the low back, you could lift your arms up onto blocks. Let your eyes close if you feel safe and welcome. Notice the breath flowing in and flowing out, and consider whether you are getting in its way or whether you are befriending it. Are you allowing it to feel welcomed? Are you allowing yourself to feel welcomed in the practice? Emma says that understanding how emotions have the power to run us around in circles helps us discover how we increase our pain, how we increase our confusion, how we cause harm to ourselves. Because we have basic goodness, basic wisdom, basic intelligence, we can stop harming ourselves and harming others. Because of mindfulness, we see things when they arise. Because of our understanding, we don't buy into the chain reaction that makes things grow from minute from minute to expansive. We leave things minute. They don't keep expanding into World War III, to violence. It all comes through learning to pause for just a moment and not doing the same thing again and again out of impulse. Simply to pause instead of immediately filling up the space transforms us. By waiting, we begin to connect with fundamental restlessness as well as fundamental spaciousness. So let's pause here. Is there a restlessness arising, a wanting to change this shape, your experience of this shape? A sound from somewhere else? Can you pause to notice what you notice? And in that pause, find spaciousness. To be comfortable with uncertainty is perhaps to see an opportunity. To give ourselves permission to not have to do or fix or fill. To give ourselves permission to feel the feelings, the sensations. In doing so, we connect with a great love and compassion that is at our core. We connect with, it feels like the wisdom of grandmothers who both say, they're there, and you have this, my child. And Pema says that when we pause, when we connect with the fundamental restlessness as well as the fundamental spaciousness, we cease to cause harm. We begin to know ourselves thoroughly, to respect ourselves and others. Anything can come up. Anything can walk into our house. We can find a dinosaur sitting on our living room couch and we don't freak out. We have been thoroughly processed by coming to know ourselves with honest, gentle mindfulness. It's sweet to see how that could be, yeah? And just a few more breaths in this Sphinx pose, feeling the hands and the forearms with whatever they're contacting, letting weight be there. As you find an openness in the chest and the front of the belly, even as you feel the feelings, the sensations across the hips and the low backs. Inhaling together. Exhale, sigh. If you're on blocks, move one to one side and one out to the other. Bring the elbows out to the sides so the head can rest on the palms. If you're in a supported child's pose, gently move the blankets, the blocks, the bolsters forward. And then invite yourself to stretch out on your belly. Invite yourself to feel still and solid on the ground. Feel the movement of the body as you breathe in and breathe out. And maybe lift the legs and circle the ankles, wiggle the toes. Gently move yourself over to the right side of your mat. Doing so ensures that your left shoulder, your left hip, stay on your blanket, mat, or beach towel for this next shape. You might want to have a blanket or a block to the top left corner of the mat. Left arm, reach it out away from you, and look at the fingertips. Have them be about shoulder, armpit height. Right hand press onto the ground and roll over onto this left shoulder. This may be where you'd like to put a block underneath your head or a blanket. So big amount of compression right here on this left shoulder. Your weight is on your left hip, your outer left thigh. You could have both knees gently bent here. You could have the left leg long and bend the right knee up, step the right foot behind you. You can stay like this. You can reach the right arm up, turn the palm behind you, bend the elbow, bring the hand to the thigh crease, let it drift down behind you. Or you could reach that right arm out long, flip the left palm up. So now both your arms are up shoulder height, and gently interlace the fingers, not gripping the fingers here. Notice where your chin is and see if you can soften your chin down. It's hard for me where my block is, so I'm going to move it forward, and now my chin can soften down. There's a bit of a twist here. We call this starfish. With the right knee up, you can even have the left knee bent, both feet on the ground with the knees drifting behind you. So feeling the sensation across the front of this left shoulder. If the fingers are intertwined behind you, let it be really gentle, not grabbing or pulling. Feel what's on the ground and rest there. And breathing in and then breathing out. Stay here. Close your eyes or keep them gently open. I don't think that yoga is the pose, the shape. I think yoga is the experience you have while you are in it, doing it. So notice if the belly can soften as you breathe in and breathe out. Notice where you hold in fear or uncertainty. And see if there can be a slight relaxing there. And keep trusting the breath as it flows in and out. Feel the ground beneath you and know that if it feels like too much tingling in the arms or the wrist, you can lean forward. You can put the hand back on the ground. Starfish has this open-hearted capacity across the chest, yeah? So much sensation in that bottom shoulder as weight is there and yet drifting back away from it. Notice if the tongue is tight. Maybe spread it out wide and long. Slowly breathing in and breathing out. Just a few more breaths on this side in starfish. Notice where your mind goes when I'm not speaking. See if you can keep inviting yourself to be where you are. One more breath in here. And one more breath out here. And start to lift that right arm up. Plant the hand in front of the chest, palm down. Lengthen both legs long behind you. And use the right hand as a kickstand to kind of roll off of that left shoulder. Bring the elbows by the ribs, hands underneath the shoulders, and give the shoulders some movement. Maybe you make circles or figure eights. Maybe you shake the head no and yes. Bring the hands in front of you, make a pillow, relax your head, and notice what else softens. Maybe you notice something across the backside or the thighs or the calves. How wonderful when you notice that. truly, you're learning you. You're learning the places that you hold when you are worried, when you are doing. Check in with those places on the next side. See if you can send an inhale and an exhale there. If there's something that is habitually tight or clenched or stressed, that could be given the opportunity to soften. Roll over to the other side of your mat now, left side. It'll be the right arm that stretches long. Press down with the left hand, roll over onto that right side. Again, knees could be bent, legs can be long, maybe a block or a blanket under the head. Now it'll be the left knee that bends up, the foot behind you, or again, the knees can be stacked, right? Left arm up, flip the palm behind you, bend the elbow, hand to the thigh, to the low back. You might flip that right palm up, keeping it still arm, shoulder height. And you could let that left arm drift behind you. And just wanted to demonstrate for a quick moment, the fingers really gently behind you. So the arms aren't coming down by your low back to interlace. It's not some competition, but to invite an opening across the chest. Maybe you let the left shoulder drop back and down. Your top knee can drift over. You can find a bit of a twist here. You can have both feet on the ground here. So why this open-heartedness? One of the first teachings in this book is about loving kindness, and Pema calls it an essential practice. She says that for an aspiring bodhisattva, the essential practice is to cultivate Maitri, or loving kindness. The Shambhala teachings speak of placing our fearful mind in the cradle of loving kindness. Another image from Maitri is that of a mother bird who protects and cares for her young until they are strong enough to fly away. People sometimes ask, who am I in this image, the mother or the chick? The answer is we're both. Both the loving mother and the ugly little chicks. It's easy to identify with the babies sometimes. Blind, raw, desperate for attention. We are a poignant mixture of something that isn't all that beautiful and yet is dearly loved. Whether this is our attitude towards ourselves or toward others, it is the key to learning how to love. We stay with ourselves and others when we're screaming for food or have no feathers, and also when we're more grown up and more appealing by worldly standards. In cultivating loving kindness, we learn first to be the honest, loving, compassionate, to be that way towards ourselves. Rather than nurturing self-denigration, we begin to cultivate a clear-seeing kindness. Sometimes we feel good and strong. Sometimes we feel inadequate and weak. But like mother love, Maitri is unconditional. No matter how we feel, we can aspire that we be happy. We can learn to act and think in ways that sow seeds of our future well-being. Gradually, we become more aware about what causes happiness as well as what causes distress. Without loving kindness for ourselves, it's difficult, if not impossible, to genuinely feel it for others. Let's breathe in and breathe out. If the hands are interlaced behind you, release that. Lift your left arm up, bend the elbow, plant the left hand in front of you. Release both legs long to the back of your mat, and gently roll off of that shoulder. Come to lay with your chest and your belly on the ground, elbows by the ribs. Make some circles in the shoulder. Shrug, go in opposite directions if you like. Make a pillow for your head or your cheek with your hands. If it would feel better to have the arms long behind you, then you are welcome to do so. The space in between poses, the transition is important. There is a moment of still feeling and remembering the imprint of the shape, moving into a space in between, maybe thinking about or preparing for what comes next, or maybe we can be in that moment, in the in-between. Let's inhale here, and exhale here. Start to draw yourself up to hands and knees. One more pose for the shoulders today. One more pose to open the heart, moving into a praying mantis. So with blocks on the mat, you could have any type of block or book here that is firm. You just don't want something that's really slippery. You could even do this with a bolster or a bunch of blankets across. So using what props are at hand to allow you to have your elbows come onto these and bring your forearms down. Let me show you what I mean. So knees underneath the hips stay high, so this isn't child's pose, hips stay high, feet on the ground. You may find you want to tuck the toes or even cross the ankles, but for now, let's start with the tops of the feet to the ground. Elbows to a support in front of you. And then walk your knees back to invite the upper arm bones to come down towards the level of whatever you're resting on. And they get to a point where they stop. The hips are still high, kind of a curve in the low back, and then relax the head and the chest down. Arms can be in front of you, palms up, palms dangling. Hands can come gently to the back of the head or the top of the shoulders. A big openness across the chest, a lot of softening opportunity in the sides of the neck, in the space in the jaw. Toes can tuck, ankles can cross, knees can come further in. Your blocks can come to a lower height, a taller height. They get more wobbly the higher they go, and you can turn them out. Some days the shoulders and the back feel in such a way that the blocks parallel doesn't work. What allows your elbows to feel firmness, to feel the ground beneath them, to let the upper arm bones come down, to feel this compression in the front of the shoulders. Breathe into the space in the front of the chest, up into the armpits, across the collarbones. Feel the compression in the top of the shoulders. It's not a punishment. It is. What is it? What color is it? What is the sensation? Is the jaw soft? Is the tongue relaxed? Sometimes I joke in the studio classes that Yin Yoga in a group setting is so powerful because we stay. Is there a quality in your Yin Yoga practice where you stay too much? Where you ignore the sensation and feeling that holds the breath or clenches the jaw? I invite you to find the version of the shape that feels the pressure on the top of the shoulders, that expands the front of the chest, but does so in a way that is kind to this body, that is kind to this person who has rolled out their yoga blanket or mat today, that acknowledges with gratitude and reverence our ability to come to stillness for the moment and practice without any bossiness or pushiness, without any unnecessary force or violence. And just a few more moments in this shape of praying mantis. Sometimes that's great news, right? When a pose is really uncomfortable for you. Sometimes we relax. Once we heal, there's just a few more breaths. We say, oh, I can sink a little deeper. And sometimes we have a feeling of sadness. Oh, this pose feels so good. I don't want it to end. Lift the head up a bit, walk the knees forward, press yourself up off of the blocks. You can either sit back on the heels or stand on the shins. Give the wrists some movement. Make fists and open them. I think my head might have gone out of the frame when I came up that high. come and face forward. I'd like to invite you to move into a hip opener. I think I'll demonstrate side to side. I think that works best with this camera angle. So you could cross the right shin in front of the left shin. You could stack the right shin on top of the left shin. You could also bring the knees closer together, wrapping into what we call shoelace. I think it's useful to have the hips kind of even on the ground, the sitting bones kind of even. So you could be on a blanket. If there's a lot of space in between the knee and the ankle, you could put a blanket or a block there. A lot of this folding forward in a shape like this has to do with how your femur bone fits into your hip socket. And all of our hip sockets and femur bone ends are different shapes. So while ankle to knee might work well in my body, it might be ankle past knee in your body. It might be almost ankle on top of ankle that allows you to hinge forward. So choosing the version that allows you to have the legs connected, either in front of one another or stacked, or maybe crisscross this, and then begin to come forward and down. This could be a lovely place to bring your blocks. Maybe the arms and the head rest. Maybe you take an extra blanket and wrap it around you here. Maybe it feels good to have a blanket folded up across the top of your legs so that your soft belly feels protected. So much goes on in the belly, right? Digestion. What allows you to feel the opening in the hips, feel connected to the floor, and soften your shoulders, your wrists, your fingers. Pema says when we start to meditate or to work with any kind of spiritual discipline, we often think that somehow we're going to improve, which is a subtle aggression against who we really are. It's a bit like saying, if I jog, I'll be a much better person. If I had a nicer house, I'd be a better person. If I could just meditate and calm down, I'd be a better person. Or the scenario may be that we find fault with others. We might say, if it weren't for my partner, I'd have a perfect marriage. If it weren't for the fact that my boss and I can't get on, my job would be just great. And if it weren't for my mind, my meditation would be excellent. Loving kindness, Mayatri. Loving kindness towards ourselves doesn't mean getting rid of anything. Mayatri means that we can still be crazy, we can still be angry. We can still be timid or jealous or full of feelings of unworthiness. Meditation practice isn't about trying to throw ourselves away and become something better. It's about befriending who we already are. The ground of practice is you or me or whoever we are right now, just as we are. That's what we come to know with tremendous curiosity and interest. Curiosity involves being gentle, precise, and open, actually being able to let go and open. Gentleness is a sense of good-heartedness towards ourselves. Precision is being able to see clearly, not being afraid to see what's really there. Openness is being able to let go and to open. When you come to have this kind of honest gentleness and good-heartedness combined with clarity about yourself, then there's no obstacle to feeling loving kindness for others as well. One more inhale here, and sigh. Start to lean backwards, maybe pressing the hands down to roll towards what's behind you before lifting the head up. Props that are in front of you, move them forward or off to the side so that you can lengthen both of your legs long for a moment. Maybe you make movements in the ankles, the wrists, the fingers, the toes. Maybe it feels good to move the knees side to side. And then we'll practice with the other shin in front or on top. So it could be the left shin in front of the right, folding forward that way, remembering that the knees could be further apart or closer in. It could be this double stack here. We call this a square pose. And if you enjoyed having the legs crisscrossed with one knee on top, you could find your way there as well. And give yourself time to settle down, to feel the shape. And it's fine with me if you practice one thing on one side and something on the other. Why not? Sometimes in our practice we can seek precision and certainty when we are finding it lacking in other parts of our lives. So be curious, be open-minded, and be so kind with what you find. And when you're ready, gently begin to fold forward. Maybe it's blocks underneath the arms or the head. Maybe you again wrap a blanket around you. Comfortable with uncertainty. 108 teachings on cultivating fearlessness and compassion. Cultivating fearlessness and compassion. Not one day you take a pill and you find that, but cultivating it. I think a really important practice in yoga and in life is to notice who you let plant seeds in your garden. Khalif gave me that phrase. So during times like this, who are you letting plant seeds in your heart and in your mind? Is it time for you to dive into reading or exploring or online teachings? Is it time for you to put the technology away and turn the radio off and listen to your thoughts, the birds, the neighbors? And can you trust yourself to explore this? Curiosity involves being gentle, precise, and open. Gentleness is a sense of good-heartedness towards ourselves. Precision is being able to see clearly, not being afraid to see what's really there. Openness is being able to let go and to open. We talk about poses like this as hip openers. So from a physical exploration, can you feel what's beneath you? And let the muscles that move the bones soften. Let the connective tissue within you maybe stretch. Invite yourself to soften down and in. With all of your wisdom. With all of your gentleness, with all of your strength, of purpose. So often we think of strength as muscles lifting. It is so strong to be still with big feelings, big sensations. It is strong to cry, to release. Just a few more breaths here. And start to press your fingertips or your palms into the ground. Leave your chin in towards your chest. Let your head be heavy and roll yourself back up to sit. Release your legs long. Maybe you wiggle the ankles and the heels. Maybe you rock the knees side to side. A small movement, a big movement. And then coming to lay down on your back, knowing where your props are. Knowing where your blankets and your blocks are. Not moving into Shavasana quite yet, but perhaps just knowing where things are, so that when it's time, you can draw them underneath you or closer to you. Come to lay down on your back. Extend your arms and legs out. And softly relax. If it would feel good to take a big stretch, you're welcome to do so. Stretching up and out. Moving into a constructed rest posture. So that's knees bent, feet out to the side, chin tucked in, and arms relaxed. You could have the hands on the belly. You could have the arms overhead. Feeling the movement of your breath as it comes in and as it goes out. You can stay here in this constructed rest pose. If you would love a supportive back bend, you can bring the feet closer together, knees bending up towards the ceiling. Take a block or a blanket and lift your hips. We'll bring the block or the blanket to the low back. There's a spot where the hips feel supported and there's less weight in the shoulders. There's still some of the bottom hanging over, but not all of it. You can leave the arms by your side. You can have the arms come overhead, stretched out, or holding wrists or opposite elbows. You can leave the feet where they are or walk them out bit by bit. See about keeping the knees hip-width distance apart here. Letting the hips be supported might mean feeling the femur bones really kind of hug in a bit. Following your breath as it moves from the lips or the nostrils and down the back of the throat, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And then letting it leave from the top to the bottom. Expanding side to side. Gently coming home to center. When we start where we are and welcome the breath in. We really dive into this now. Notice the words you use to understand your experience. Are they kind? Are they true? If you've walked the feet out long, start to walk them back in again. If the arms are overhead, bring them down by your side. And then press into the feet, engage the thighs on the bottom, move the block out of the way, keep the thighs engaged, roll down from the top to the bottom, and gently move the knees side to side. Everyone bringing the arms by their side if they're overhead, and then bringing the knees in, rock side to side. Maybe make circles on the low back. Maybe extend arms and legs up, circling the wrists, moving the ankles. And then as you're ready, lengthen your left leg long, Let your right knee come over and down beside your leg. It may come to the ground right away. You may enjoy having a blanket or some blocks there. So my right ankle is away from my left leg. All my weight's on my left hip. My right hip is straight up to the sky. And then fall back on your shoulders. Open your arms up, letting the hands find something to rest on. The shoulders may not both be on the floor. You can always have that right hand on a block. Something that lets the shoulder and elbow soften, even if it doesn't contact the floor. What allows you to relax? The hips pointing, the right hip pointing straight up means the low back isn't twisting. The ribs are twisting. The chest is opening. Let the eyes close here as you breathe in and as you breathe out. I'd like to read you these words from John O'Donohue from his book Anamkara. Only in solitude can you discover a sense of your own beauty. The divine artist sent no one here without the depth and light of divine beauty. This beauty is frequently concealed behind the dull facade of routine. Only in your solitude will you come upon your own beauty. In Connemara, where there are a lot of fishing villages, there is a phrase that says, and forgive my Gaelic, Ishfanach adich gilfa gliomach. That is, it is in the unexpected or neglected place that you will find a lobster. In the neglected crevices and corners of your evaded solitude, you will find the treasure that you have always sought elsewhere. Ezra Pound said something similar about beauty. Beauty likes to keep away from the public glare. It likes to find a neglected or abandoned place, for it knows that is only there where it will meet the kind of light that repeats its shape, dignity, and nature. There's a deep beauty within each person. Modern culture is obsessed with cosmetic perfection. Beauty is standardized. It's become another product. In its real sense, beauty is the illumination of your soul. And start to draw your right knee in. Roll onto your back once again. Bring your left knee in and rock side to side. Make any movement or hug. And then right leg long, left knee over and down. Spread the arms out to a T or out like goalposts. Let the left hip point up to the ceiling. Let the shoulders fall back away from your belly. Let your head find the ground and your gaze within. Start to lengthen your exhales here. He continues, there's a lantern in the soul which makes your solitude luminous. Solitude need not remain lonely. It can awaken to its luminous warmth. The soul redeems and transfigures everything because the soul is the divine space. When you inhabit your solitude fully and experience its outer extremes of isolation and abandonment, you will find that at its heart there is neither loneliness nor emptiness, but intimacy and shelter. In your solitude, you are frequently nearer to the heart of belonging and kinship than you are in your social life or public world. At this level, memory is the great friend of solitude. The harvest of memory opens up when solitude is right. This is captured succinctly by Wordsworth in his response to the memory of daffodils. Oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or pensive mood, they flash upon the inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. Your persona, beliefs, and role are in reality a technique or strategy for getting through the daily routine. When you are on your own or when you wake in the middle of the night, the real knowing within you can surface. You come to feel the secret equilibrium of your soul. When you travel the inner distance and reach the divine, the outer distance vanishes. Ironically, your trust in your inner belonging radically alters your outer belonging. Unless you find belonging in your solitude, your external longing will remain needy and driven. And there is a wonderful welcome within. Meister Eckhart illuminates this point. He says that there is a place in the soul that neither space nor time nor flesh can touch. This is the eternal place within us. It would be a lovely gift to yourself to go there often, to be nourished, strengthened, and renewed. The deepest things that you need are not elsewhere. They are here and now, in the circle of your own soul. Real friendship and holiness enable a person to frequently visit the hearth of his solitude. This benediction invites an approach to others in their blessedness. And draw a long, slow breath in through your nose and sigh. You start to draw that left knee in, come onto your back and give yourself a hug. Maybe you curl up into a little ball. Maybe you wiggle wrists, fingers, and toes and ankles. Make any last movement. And then lay down for your Shavasana. Are you tempted to leave because this is taped? It's the most important pose. Maybe you bring a blanket over the belly. Maybe you bring a blanket opened all the way over the body. Maybe you take a blanket and bring it just onto the top of your shoulders, a gentle bit filling in the space underneath the back of the neck. Maybe you enjoy having a blanket rolled up underneath the back of your thighs. Sometimes lifting your thigh bones up can invite you to relax. Maybe it's the femur bones coming home to the hip sockets that could allow the belly to soften, the breath to expand. Maybe you place something over the top of the eyes to gently invite the thinking muscles, the seeing muscles to soften. Feel the floor rise up to meet you. Draw a long, slow breath in through your nose and open your mouth to sigh. In the beginning of Pema's book, she writes, "May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May we be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May we not be separated from the great happiness devoid of suffering. May we dwell in the great equanimity, free from passion, aggression, and prejudice." And return to sensation in the body by bringing the hands to the thighs or the belly, or making small movements in the fingers and toes. If it would feel good, you can take a big stretch, or you can give yourself a hug. Draw your knees in, give yourself a hug, roll over onto your right side and pause there. Thank yourself for practicing. Thank yourself for coming home to your ability to be kind and compassionate to you, to be here where you are now, finding more comfortableness in the uncertainty. Yoga doesn't give these things to you. It helps you remember that they are your birthright, that you are born with wisdom and kindness and love. So give yourself a squeeze, thank yourself for practicing, and make your way up to come to sit. Coming to any seat you love, cross-legged, legs long on the shins, props or no props. Gather your hands together in front of your heart, lift your heart and bow your head. I invite you to close the class with me by joining your voice to chant, hum, or listen to the sound of Om once, and then chant, hum, or listen to Shanti, peace, 3 times together, wrapping that peace around you, sending it out into the world wherever it will do the most good today. And let's inhale. Face, draw your thumbs to the space between your eyebrows. Trust your intuition. Soften your shoulders. Bow your head to you. Seal in your practice. Lokasamasta, Sukhi no Bhavantu. May all beings, and that includes you and me, be happy and free. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing. I hope to see you soon.